name is Lucas Bennett. I wasn't supposed to be on the road that night. I had planned to leave in the morning, but the city felt too loud, too crowded, too exhausting. My mother had been asking me to visit for weeks, and I finally gave in. It was a 5-hour drive to her place. Mostly highway, long, empty stretches, very few exits. I left at 11:40 p.m. I told myself it would be peaceful. No traffic, no trucks, just headlights cutting through darkness. For the first 2 hours, it was exactly that. The highway stretched endlessly under pale moonlight. My music played low, windows slightly open, cool air brushing against my face. There's something calming about driving at night. The world feels smaller, quieter, like it belongs only to you. That feeling didn't last. At 1:52 a.m., the low fuel light came on. I frowned. I could probably push another 30 miles, but I didn't want to risk it. The next town wasn't guaranteed to have a 24-hour station. A small green exit sign appeared ahead. Gas, 1 mile. I took it. The road curved off the highway and led into near total darkness. No houses, no streetlights, just trees lining both sides of the narrow road. Then I saw it. A single gas station. 4 pumps. Bright white fluorescent lights humming above. The store attached to it was small, rectangular, with large glass windows facing the pumps. There were no other cars. I checked the time again. 1:57 a.m. It felt later. I pulled up to pump 2. The air felt colder when I stepped out. Not just temperature. Still. Too still. The hum of the fluorescent lights buzzed loudly in the silence. I inserted my card and began fueling. I looked around casually. Nothing unusual. Dark road behind me. Empty highway exit. Forest on both sides. The gas pump clicked steadily. I suddenly felt very aware of my car. Very aware of the back seat. Very aware that I hadn't checked it before leaving home. I shook the thought away. Paranoia. Too many crime documentaries. The pump stopped. $48.27. I screwed the cap back on and glanced toward the store. Bright inside. Shelves visible. No cashier at the counter. But the lights were on. The door sign read, "Open 24 hours." I was suddenly hungry and craving something salty. I locked my car. At least I think I did. I pressed the button. Heard a faint click. I walked toward the store. The bell above the door chimed softly when I entered. The inside smelled like stale coffee and cleaning chemicals. Rows of snacks. Coolers humming along the back wall. A small counter with a register. But no cashier. "Hello," I called out. My voice sounded louder than expected. No response. I walked down one aisle. Grabbed a bag of chips. Then a chocolate bar. Still no one. I approached the counter. The register screen was on. Security monitors hung in the upper corner of the store. 4 camera views. Pumps. Entrance. Parking lot. Inside aisle. My car sat alone under the lights. Everything looked normal. "Hello," I called again. That's when I heard movement behind the counter. A young man stood up slowly. He looked about 23 or 24. Pale. Dark circles under his eyes. He avoided eye contact at first. "Sorry," he said quietly. "Didn't hear you." His voice trembled slightly. I placed my snacks on the counter. "You okay?" I asked casually. He didn't answer immediately. He scanned the items slowly. His hands shook while typing into the register. He kept glancing toward the security monitors, then toward the door, then back to the monitors. Something felt off. Not hostile. Afraid. "Long night?" I asked. He swallowed, then leaned slightly closer and whispered, "Don't go back to your car." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Don't go back to your car," he repeated, barely moving his lips. I felt a wave of confusion. "Why?" His eyes flicked to the monitor again, then back to me. "There's someone inside." My chest tightened instantly. What are you talking about? In your back seat, he said. He got in when you were pumping. My mind rejected it immediately. That's not possible. I locked it. Didn't I? The cashier stepped back slightly. He's still there. The fluorescent lights suddenly felt harsher, brighter. I turned slowly toward the monitors. Camera angles showed my car. Nothing visible through the tinted windows. But I realized something. The rear passenger door wasn't fully closed. It looked slightly uneven. My breathing became shallow. You're sure? I asked. The cashier nodded once. He ducked down when you came inside. My hands felt cold. I hadn't checked the back seat before leaving. I hadn't checked when I stopped. I had been distracted, craving snacks, careless. The cashier moved quickly. He flipped a switch under the counter. The automatic doors locked with a soft click. He turned off the large open sign outside. What are you doing? I whispered. He might come in looking for you. My pulse pounded in my ears. Call the police, I said. I already did. His hands shook as he reached for his phone again. They're on their way. I stared at my car through the glass. It looked normal, silent, still. But now it felt like something alive, something waiting. It happened faster than I expected. A sudden loud bang against the store door. Both of us flinched. Another bang. Harder. The glass rattled. My heart slammed against my ribs. The cashier pulled me down behind the counter. Don't move, he whispered. Through the side of the counter, I saw him. A shadow outside the door. Tall, broad shoulders, face partially covered with a dark hoodie. He slammed his fist against the glass again, then stepped back and looked directly at the security camera mounted above the entrance. Slowly, deliberately. Then he disappeared from view. My stomach twisted. He knows, I whispered. The cashier nodded. Back room, he said quickly. We crawled behind the counter and rushed into a small storage room. Metal shelves, boxes stacked high, a single weak bulb overhead. He locked the door behind us. My breathing sounded too loud. I tried to control it, tried to think logically. He's just one person, I said quietly. The cashier didn't respond. Then we heard it. The sound of something shattering, glass breaking. He had forced entry. The alarm started blaring seconds later, high-pitched and piercing. Footsteps inside the store, slow, deliberate. Shelves falling, items crashing. He wasn't rushing. He was searching for me. The storage room felt too small, too exposed. Every footstep outside felt closer. The cashier grabbed a metal rod from one of the shelves. His hands shook violently. I felt useless, unarmed, trapped. The footsteps stopped outside the storage room door. Silence. I held my breath. A shadow appeared under the crack of the door. He tried the handle. Locked. He pushed harder. The door rattled. The cashier pressed his back against it. So did I. Another push. Stronger. Then, silence. The footsteps retreated. Slowly. We didn't move for what felt like 10 minutes. Then distant sirens pierced the night. The footsteps quickened. A back door slammed somewhere. Then nothing. When officers arrived, they swept the building carefully. We stayed in the storage room until they told us it was safe. The store was a mess. Glass shattered near the entrance. Snack racks overturned. But no one inside. One officer asked me for details. I told him everything. Another officer reviewed the CCTV footage. We stood behind him as he replayed it. The footage showed me pumping gas, then walking inside. Seconds later, the rear passenger door opened slightly. A man slid into the back seat. Smooth, fast, then closed it gently. He stayed there, waiting. The camera angle didn't show inside clearly, but you could see slight movement through the rear window. He waited until I entered the store, then exited the car quietly. He crouched behind it for a moment, watching. Approached the store. My legs felt weak. I could have driven off. I could have been on the highway at 70 miles per hour, with him in the back seat. The officer paused the footage. The man's face wasn't clear, but in one frame, when he looked toward the camera, you could see the outline of something in his hand. A gun. Small. Compact. Ready. The officer looked at me. "You're lucky?" Lucky. That word again. They searched the area but didn't find him. No fingerprints. No vehicle left behind. No clear direction of escape. The cashier's name was Daniel. He had been working nights for 2 months. He told the officer he noticed the man entering my car immediately. He wasn't sure at first. Thought maybe I knew him. But something felt wrong. He watched carefully and waited until I came inside. If he hadn't been watching, I would have left, driven straight back onto the highway, alone or not alone. The officers offered to escort me back to the highway. I declined. Instead, I asked if there was a motel nearby. There was one, 8 miles down the road. I didn't drive that night. I couldn't. I sat in that motel room until sunrise. Every sound made me jump. Every passing car outside made my chest tighten. I kept replaying the footage in my head. The smooth way he entered my car. The patience. The waiting. He hadn't been desperate. He had been calm. Calculated. That was the part that haunted me most. I still think about that night. I never drive long distances after midnight anymore. Never stop at isolated stations unless absolutely necessary. And I always check the back seat, even during the day. Sometimes I wonder what his plan was. Robbery? Kidnapping? Something worse? I'll never know. But I do know this. If you're driving alone at night and you stop somewhere quiet, before you get back into your car, check. Look. Open the back door. Don't assume safety. Don't assume luck will protect you. Because if Daniel hadn't been watching, I wouldn't be telling this story. And sometimes when I close my eyes, I still see that frame from the CCTV. The moment he chose not to move while I stood only feet away from the car. The moment he decided to wait. And I can't stop thinking, how many times has that worked for him before? Story 2. I took the night shift because it paid $2 more per hour. That's the only reason. No grand ambition, no tragic backstory, just rent, groceries, and the dull weight of adulthood pressing on my chest like humidity before a storm. The gas station sat just off Route 17, about 20 miles outside the city limits. A lonely patch of fluorescent lights surrounded by forest and long stretches of road that rarely saw traffic past midnight. During the day, truckers and commuters flowed in and out. At night, it felt like the last building left on Earth. My name is Daniel Harper. I was 24 when it happened, and I still don't work nights anymore. The station had 3 fuel pumps, a small convenience store, and a restroom at the back of the building. The place smelled permanently of gasoline, burnt coffee, and cheap floor cleaner. A flickering neon, open 24 hours sign buzzed against the dark like a trapped insect. Most nights were uneventful. A trucker grabbing coffee, a couple arguing quietly while paying for cigarettes, the occasional teenager buying energy drinks. That particular night was quieter than usual. It was a Tuesday in late October, cold enough that my breath fogged faintly when I stepped outside to restock windshield fluid. The trees beyond the parking lot swayed under a thin mist. No wind, no crickets, just stillness. By 1:15 a.m., I hadn't seen a single customer in over an hour. The silence began to feel heavy. Inside, the fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The security cameras displayed 4 black and white screens above the counter. Pump 1, Pump 2, parking lot, store interior. Everything empty. I made stale coffee and leaned against the counter, scrolling mindlessly through my phone. At 1:42 a.m., headlights appeared. They came slowly down the road. Not fast, not erratic, just steady. A single sedan. Relief washed over me. Human presence meant the world still existed. The car turned into the station without signaling and rolled toward Pump 3. It was an older vehicle, a faded blue sedan. Rust creeping around the wheel wells, one tail light slightly dimmer than the other. The driver's door opened. An elderly woman stepped out. She moved carefully, like each motion required deliberate thought. Thin frame, long gray hair pulled into a low bun. A heavy wool coat that looked too large for her. She didn't look at the pump, didn't check her phone, didn't glance toward the store. She just stood there, facing the building, facing me, through the glass doors. I straightened up instinctively. Something about the way she stood felt off. No fidgeting, no searching for a wallet, no signs of being cold. Just stillness. After about 10 seconds, she slowly turned toward the pump and inserted the nozzle into her tank. She didn't look at the screen while fueling. She looked at me, directly at me. Even from that distance, I could feel it. I told myself I was being dramatic. People stare sometimes. Maybe she had poor eyesight. Maybe she was just lost in thought. The pump clicked off after what couldn't have been more than 2 gallons. She returned the nozzle. Instead of getting back into her car, she walked toward the store. Slowly. Her shoes made a soft, dragging sound against the pavement. When she pushed the door open, the bell above it chimed. She stepped inside. Up close, she looked older than I'd first thought. Deep lines across her cheeks, skin pale, almost gray under the fluorescent lights. Her eyes were watery, but sharp. She stopped 3 feet from the counter. Didn't blink. Just stared. "Do you need any help, ma'am?" She didn't answer. Didn't nod. Didn't move. Just stared. Her gaze wasn't confused. It wasn't distracted. It was focused. On me. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Are you looking for something?" Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Her expression didn't change. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was emptiness. An unblinking, flat stare that made my skin crawl. Seconds stretched. The humming lights felt louder. My reflection in her eyes looked distorted. And then she turned her head. Slowly. Too slowly. Her eyes moved first. Then her neck followed. As if she had to remember how. She looked toward the refrigerators at the back of the store. Then back at me. Still silent. A sharp, heavy feeling bloomed in my chest. Instinct. Pure animal instinct. Something was wrong. Very wrong. My mind scrambled for logic. Dementia, maybe. Confusion. Maybe she was lost. But there was something about her stillness that didn't match confusion. It felt intentional. She took 1 step toward the counter, then another. My heart began to pound. "Are you okay?" Nothing. Just that stare. Her pupils looked too large. Her mouth hung slightly open. A smell reached me then. Not gasoline. Not perfume. Metallic. Faint. Like rust. Or something else. Her coat sleeve brushed the counter. And I noticed her hands. They were trembling. Not lightly. Violently. But the rest of her body remained perfectly still. The disconnect between the trembling hands and her frozen face made my breath hitch. Something inside me snapped. I didn't think. I moved. I stepped backward away from the counter, then turned, and walked quickly toward the back hallway that led to the restroom. My chest tightened as if I were being watched by something that understood me. I didn't look back. I reached the restroom, stepped inside, locked the door. My hands shook as I twisted the deadbolt. I leaned against the sink and tried to slow my breathing. "You're overreacting. She's just old. You're being ridiculous." The fluorescent light in the restroom flickered. I stared at my reflection. pale, sweat forming at my temples. Then I heard it, a soft sound, from the store. Footsteps, dragging, slow, coming down the hallway, toward me. My pulse roared in my ears. The hallway floor creaked. One step, then another. Deliberate, measured. The footsteps stopped right outside the restroom door. Silence. I didn't breathe. The metal handle rattled once. Softly. Testing. Then, bang! The door shook violently. I flinched back. Another slam. Harder. The thin wood trembled under the force. Bang! 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 Each hit stronger than the last. The entire frame vibrated. The mirror above the sink quivered. She wasn't frail. She wasn't weak. The blows were powerful. Inhumanly forceful for someone her size. I scrambled for my phone, hands slick with sweat. Dialed 911. Whispered my address. Tried to explain. There's someone trying to break into the restroom. Please, please hurry. The operator told me to stay locked inside. The banging continued. Relentless. No words. No screaming. Just raw, violent impact against the door. The handle twisted frantically. Wood splintered slightly near the lock. My throat tightened. Tears burned in my eyes. The thought crossed my mind that the door wouldn't hold. That she would break through. That I would see that blank stare inches from my face. The banging stopped. Abruptly. Complete silence. No footsteps. No movement. Nothing. I didn't move. Minutes passed. Or maybe seconds. Time felt distorted. I crouched on the restroom floor, phone clutched in my hand, listening. Nothing. The silence felt worse than the noise. Red and blue lights eventually washed faintly through the frosted restroom window. Police sirens in the distance. Relief nearly made me collapse. I stayed locked inside until I heard pounding from the other side, but this time accompanied by voices. Police! Open the door! My legs felt numb as I unlocked it. 2 officers stood in the hallway. The store behind them was eerily calm. No sign of struggle. No broken shelves. No shattered glass. Just quiet. Where is she? One officer asked. She was here, I said. She tried to break the door down. They exchanged a look. We walked into the main store area. Empty. The front door was closed. The parking lot outside looked still. The sedan remained at pump 3. The officers stepped outside cautiously. I followed a few feet behind. The night air felt colder now. They approached the vehicle. The driver's door was slightly ajar. One officer peered inside and froze. His posture changed instantly. Rigid. He called his partner over. I couldn't see from where I stood. Then one of them turned toward me. Stay back. But I had already seen. In the driver's seat sat a young woman, early 20s. Head tilted unnaturally to the side. Blood matted in her hair. Dried streaks down her neck. Her eyes were open, staring, dead. The metallic smell I'd noticed earlier rushed back into my memory. Rust. Blood. She's been dead for hours, one officer muttered. My stomach dropped. Where's the old woman? I whispered. They searched the perimeter. The woods. The road. Nothing. No footprints. No sign of struggle outside. Just the abandoned car. And the corpse. The old woman was gone. Security footage later showed the sedan pulling in. It showed the elderly woman stepping out. It showed her entering the store. It showed me backing away. It showed her walking down the hallway. Then, the hallway camera glitched. Static. When the image returned, the hallway was empty. She never exited on camera. Never left through the front. Never appeared in the parking lot again. The police questioned me for hours. Asked if I'd seen anyone else. If I was sure it was an old woman. If maybe I'd imagined parts of it. I hadn't. I knew what I saw. They identified the dead girl 2 days later. Reported missing that afternoon. No connection to me. No family link to the elderly woman. Because they never found the elderly woman. No fingerprints inside the store except mine and the victim's on the car. No DNA matches. The case stalled. And eventually went cold. I quit the job a week later. I couldn't stand the hum of fluorescent lights anymore. Couldn't bear the reflection of empty parking lots at night. But something followed me. Not physically, mentally. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I still see that stare. Not angry, not malicious, just hollow, watching, waiting. And sometimes late at night, when the house is quiet, I think about one detail that never sat right. The pump. She only filled 2 gallons. The tank wasn't empty. The car didn't need gas. She came for something else. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't trusted my instincts. If I hadn't run. If that restroom door hadn't held. The police told me it was likely an accomplice. Someone hiding in the woods. Someone who fled. But they never explained how an elderly woman could strike a door with that kind of force. They never explained the missing footage gap. They never explained how she vanished in a parking lot surrounded by open space. Sometimes I wonder if she ever needed the car at all. Or if she just needed someone inside the building. Alone. It's been 3 years. I don't stop at gas stations at night anymore. And if you ever find yourself alone under fluorescent lights with a quiet parking lot outside, and an elderly woman steps out of a car that shouldn't have been moving, if she looks at you without blinking, don't stay behind the counter. Don't try to be polite. Don't try to understand. Lock yourself somewhere solid. And don't open the door, even if the banging stops. Because sometimes, silence is not safety. Sometimes, it's waiting. Story 3. I should have trusted the silence. Not the kind you get in the countryside where insects hum and wind drags its fingers through trees. Not the peaceful quiet of early morning before the world wakes up. This was different. This was the kind of silence that feels staged. Like someone muted the world. My name is Ethan Cole. 3 months ago, I was driving west on Route 48, heading toward my brother's place in Rockford. It was a 7-hour drive and I had started late. Work ran long, rain slowed traffic. By the time I passed the last major town, it was nearly midnight. The fuel gauge hovered just above empty. I remember calculating the miles left versus the distance to the next known station. It wasn't going to work. The highway stretched ahead, 2 narrow lanes cutting through miles of dark farmland and forest patches. No streetlights, no houses, just reflective road markers blinking back at me like distant eyes. The GPS estimated another 30 miles to the nearest gas station. I had maybe 15. That's when I saw it. A flicker of light in the distance. A tall sign rising above the trees. A gas station. Relief washed over me so intensely I laughed out loud. The sign read, Hollow Creek Fuel and Mart. The lettering was old-fashioned, almost hand-painted looking. One of the letters in Creek flickered faintly. It wasn't on my GPS, but it was real. I could see the pumps, the canopy lights, the small square building beneath it. I slowed and turned in. The moment my tires rolled off the highway and onto the cracked concrete, the air changed. It felt heavier. The station was old, not run down exactly, but outdated. The paint was faded. The windows were slightly tinted, too dark to see clearly inside. There were 4 pumps, no other cars, no trash on the ground, no wind, no sound. Even my engine seemed louder than usual as I pulled up to pump 2. I turned the car off. Silence swallowed everything. No hum from the lights overhead. No buzzing from the sign. No distant highway noise. It felt insulated from the world. I stepped out. The air smelled faintly metallic. Not gasoline, just metal. The pump screen was blank. No digital display. Just an old mechanical number window, like something from the 80s. I lifted the nozzle. The pump clicked on instantly. Gasoline flowed. The numbers ticked upward smoothly. It felt normal. Too normal. I glanced toward the building. The store lights were on, but I still couldn't see inside. The windows reflected only darkness. The fuel tank filled faster than expected. Almost too fast. When it reached full, the pump stopped with a soft click. I replaced the nozzle and looked around. Still no movement. I checked my phone. No signal. That didn't surprise me out here. But the GPS screen on my dashboard was glitching. The map flickered. Zoomed in. Zoomed out. The blue dot marking my location pulsed erratically. Then froze. I walked toward the store. The glass door had a small brass bell above it. I pushed it open. The bell didn't ring. Inside, fluorescent lights bathed everything in pale white. The shelves were stocked. Snacks, canned goods, bottled drinks, all neatly arranged. But there was no music, no hum from refrigerators, no sound of air conditioning. It was as if the room absorbed noise. "Hello?" I called. My voice sounded strange, muted, like I was speaking through cloth. No one responded. The counter stood at the far end, old cash register resting on top. A rack of postcards beside it. I stepped closer. Dust covered everything. Not thick, but enough to notice. Footprints were absent. No smudges on the counter. No signs of recent use. Yet the lights were on. And the gas pump had worked. A faint chill crept down my spine. I turned in a slow circle. The store felt staged, like a replica of a gas station. Like someone had built it from memory but never actually used it. I checked the coolers. They were unplugged. The glass doors weren't even cold. But inside sat bottled sodas arranged perfectly in rows. I reached for one. The bottle was warm. I set it back carefully. That metallic smell lingered. Faint, persistent. I returned to the counter. There was no payment terminal. No credit card slot. No modern equipment, just the old register, and a small handwritten sign. "Thank you for stopping." That was it. No prices, no instructions. A prickle crawled up my neck. I stepped outside quickly. The night felt darker now. The highway behind the station was gone. My stomach dropped. Where the road should have been, there was only darkness. Not shadow, not trees. Just black, like someone erased it. I blinked hard, walked to the edge of the concrete. There should have been asphalt stretching both directions. Instead, there was an empty void beyond the perimeter of light. My car sat alone under the canopy. I ran to it, turned the key. The engine started. Relief. I shifted into drive, pressed the gas. The car moved forward, towards where the highway had been. The headlights illuminated only blackness. I drove 10 feet past the station's edge, and the car jolted violently, as if I had hit something solid. But there was nothing there. I stepped out, ran my hand through the air ahead of the car. Resistance, like touching invisible glass. My pulse skyrocketed. I moved left, right. Every direction beyond the station's boundary felt sealed. Trapped. I backed the car into the lot again, breathing hard. This wasn't possible. It had to be exhaustion, hallucination, stress. I checked my phone again. No signal. Battery at 78%. The time read 12:14 a.m. It hadn't changed. I stared at it, waited. Chier dien si fen. It didn't move. I opened the car door. Stepped back out. The air felt thicker now, harder to breathe. The station lights flickered once. I looked toward the store. For a split second, I thought I saw movement inside, a shape near the back shelves. I blinked. Nothing. I walked slowly toward the entrance. Each step echoed unnaturally loud. The door was still open. I stepped inside again. This time, the metallic smell was stronger. I moved toward the back hallway I hadn't noticed before. A narrow corridor behind the counter, dimly lit. I don't know why I went back there. Maybe because staying still felt worse. The hallway walls were lined with framed photographs. Old ones, black and white. Each photo showed the same gas station. Over decades, different cars, different eras. But the building looked identical, unchanged. In every photo, there was a person standing near pump 2, always alone, always blurry. I leaned closer. In the most recent photo, the car looked like mine. My throat tightened. I studied the image. The angle matched the way I had parked. The shape of the headlights. The faint dent on the rear bumper. It was my car. But the figure standing beside it, the face was obscured, smudged, like the camera couldn't focus. A chill rippled through me. I stepped back. The hallway lights flickered again, and for a fraction of a second, the photos changed. In each frame, the blurry figure looked clearer. Closer, facing the camera, facing me. I stumbled backward into the main store. My breathing grew shallow. The door to the outside slammed shut on its own. The sound cracked through the silence like a gunshot. I rushed to it, pulled. It wouldn't budge. The glass had turned opaque. I couldn't see the pumps anymore. The lights dimmed, flickered, then steadied. The store felt smaller, the aisles narrower, the ceiling lower. A sound echoed faintly from somewhere deep within the walls. Not a voice, not a machine, just a low hum, like distant static. I checked my phone again. 12:14 a.m. Still frozen. The battery now read 62%. I don't remember using it. Panic began to bloom fully. I tried calling emergency services. The call screen appeared, but instead of dialing, the phone displayed a message. You have already arrived. My reflection in the black screen looked distorted, not quite aligned, as if it lagged behind my movements. The hum grew louder. I realized then, it wasn't coming from the walls. It was coming from outside, through the floor, through the air. The station was vibrating, subtly, like an engine idling beneath it. I ran to the windows. They were completely black now. No parking lot, no sky, no stars, nothing. Just void. Hours passed, or minutes. Time didn't move. The lights never changed. I searched the entire building. There was no exit, no back door, no storage room leading elsewhere. Just shelves, counter, hallway with photographs, and the invisible barrier outside. I tried breaking the window with a fire extinguisher. The glass didn't shatter. It rippled, like water, then solidified again. Exhaustion set in. I sat on the floor near pump 2's window. The hum continued, steady, constant. And then, headlights appeared outside. I scrambled to my feet. A car pulled into the station, identical to mine. It parked at pump 2. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out. He looked around nervously. It was me, not a mirror, not a reflection. Another version. He looked confused, exactly like I had. He began fueling the car. I pounded on the window. He didn't react. He couldn't see me. He finished, walked toward the store. I backed away. The door opened. He stepped inside, walked right past me, as if I didn't exist. He called out, "Hello?" Muted, distant, like an echo of memory. He walked toward the hallway, toward the photographs, and I understood. The station wasn't abandoned. It was collecting. I followed him, watched as he studied the photos. Watched the realization dawn on his face. Watched the door slam shut behind him. He turned, saw me. For the first time, his expression shifted from confusion to horror. "What is this place?" he asked. His voice sounded clearer than mine had. I tried to answer, but no sound came out. My throat moved. Nothing. He stepped toward me, then froze. His body flickered, like poor reception. His outline blurred. And then, he vanished. Gone. The hallway lights steadied. I turned toward the photos. There was a new one at the end of the wall. Black and white. My car had pumped two. And two blurry figures standing near it. One slightly clearer than before. The realization settled slowly. This place doesn't exist on the highway. It isn't somewhere you drive to. It waits. And when you're low on fuel, when you're isolated, when the road feels endless, it appears. Just convincing enough. And once you enter, the road disappears. You don't leave. You become part of it. Another photograph. Another blurred figure. Waiting for the next traveler. I don't know how long I've been here now. My phone battery is at 12%. The time still reads 12:14 a.m. The hum continues. Sometimes I see headlights. Sometimes I see another version of myself walk in. Sometimes they notice me. Sometimes they don't. Each time one of us fades, and the photos grow clearer. If you're driving late at night, and you see a gas station that your GPS doesn't recognize, if the sign flickers, if the parking lot feels too still, keep driving. Even if your tank is empty, even if you think you won't make it. Because if you turn in, you won't run out of gas. You'll run out of road. And the station will keep you. Like it kept me. The lights just flickered again. I think another car is pulling in. It looks familiar. I need to see if... No, that's not possible. The man stepping out. He looks exactly like me, but older. And he's staring directly at the window. At me. Smiling. And for the first time, the time on my phone just changed. 12:15 a.m. I think that means it's my turn to disappear.